Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today I got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because as of late yesterday, MAME 2.279 is out in the wild, bringing in a ton of improvements that I have previewed on the channel up to this point in time with different builds. This is going to be a big update, maybe not as meaty as last month, but you're still going to get a lot of improvements in the mix as far as a lot of different platforms on MAME is concerned. And that is always awesome because it's one of the best emulators out there and it's getting so much better in so many different directions. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, every single improvement to Sega Model 2, including on the graphics and shading, is going to be in MAME 2.279. This is feeling so almost final here, basically rivaling the Model 2 emulator now outside of some improvements. Feels like the de facto way to play Sega Model 2. Just ignore this crash right here, do not try to play a game with your cat on your lap taking pets, he's going to want to touch the controller. But honestly, this just looks and feels so incredibly good now as far as the actual Model 2 emulation is concerned. The House of the Dead has that drama and overall visual vibe that I would expect out of the game, and it just is looking nice. Maybe there's a tiny bit of dithering weirdness there in the water, but otherwise you'd be hard pressed to realize that this was emulation and not a capture off a real arcade board, outside of the fact that obviously it looks clearer than trying to tap an RGB signal. And there's going to be a ton of improvements to Model 2, so if you're on a couple of versions old of MAME, maybe around 0.270 or something like that, you absolutely have to upgrade this because now it is just so incredibly easy to use. And the thing is, Model 2 emulator has always been a good option, but MAME is a lot easier on the UI and just overall setup. Playing something like this with gun for IR or any other light gun or even mouse you have, it's just going to be that much easier to get running in MAME in my opinion. And all of the zombies here, all of the walls, all of the shading look accurate to what I remember playing in the arcades. And the fun thing is, it's so much easier to play in MAME than a real arcade board because this is a medium resolution game. I actually have the arcade PCB in my closet, but I only have a 31 kilohertz and 15 kilohertz monitor right now, so this for me is the way I want to play the House of the Dead moving forward. It is just that good. But of course, Sega Rally was another game we previewed in more recent builds, and this again just feels absolutely spectacular. From the steering to the overall graphical nature of it to the soundtrack, everything here just feels like you're playing a Sega Model 2 game without thinking about the fact that it is emulation in MAME. And that is always the ultimate goal. You want to be able to just sit down and play a game and have fun and not think about any graphical glitches, not think about any hitching or frame rate issues. But again, with all of things in MAME, it's going to be spec dependent. If you have a CPU that should have been retired 5 years ago and is basically a rotten potato, you're not going to get the same results I do here. And while you don't need a heavy hitting brand new CPU to get 60 frames per second in these games, just don't bring something like an i5 4900K or something like that to the party and you should be totally cool. And as far as the sound quality in Model 2 emulation in MAME, it is absolutely outstanding. So we're going into the first soundtrack sample, 35 seconds, and I'll be right back to talk about a 2D platform.
Checkpoint. Medium left. Medium left, baby. Long medium right.
Not only does Sega Rally 2 sound incredible, but it also controls exactly as you would expect and looks exactly how you would expect it to look. And I will be doing a Model 2 video, maybe in a couple weeks, touring through all of the different games and showing you how they function. And in a small technical change that has nothing to do with the graphics, Over-Rev here used to have the accelerate set to brake and brake set to accelerate, so you had to use opposite inputs and you'd have to train your brain just a little bit differently. But now that is fixed up, a small improvement but a very fundamental one, and I love to see it. Now moving to a completely different platform and one we haven't talked about on any of these MAME update videos. This is the Irem M92 and this is Ninja Baseball Batman. In the patch notes for the month of July for MAME 279, you're going to see many different mentions of Irem M92 and graphical fixes, including some of the shadows in Ninja Baseball Batman. And it's one of those things, these games have emulated for forever, but they have had graphical glitches, and now they are going to be much better in the cleaned up department. And that's definitely something nice to see, going back into old emulation and patching it up. This also has an incredible soundtrack that sounds great coming out of MAME. Second soundtrack sample, 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with even more. I mean, honestly, the music in Ninja Baseball Batman is just one part of an absolutely perfect package, from the incredible graphics to the absolutely insane storyline and setting to the incredible music. You just get an absolutely amazing game when you play Ninja Baseball Batman. It's weird, it's quirky, it's a total vibe, and it's exactly the type of thing I would love. And now in MAME 0.279, it is going to be a lot better graphically. That's not to say that every single glitch has been fixed, but a lot of them have been. If you move over to Gun Force to another Irem M92 game, another one that's seen some graphical fixes this month as well. Now you will see this is slowing down. That is inherent to the arcade board, so MAME is emulating it accurately. Basically, the developers at Irem went for graphics and overall sprites on screen versus performance, and if this looks familiar, it's basically kind of a precursor to Metal Slug, another franchise that really didn't care about slowdown. Now on the Mr. FPGA side of things, we have Wicker Waka's Irem M92 core with a turbo option to reduce the slowdown, but of course MAME is all about accuracy, so having the slowdown here would be expected, although you can kind of play around with overclocks if you want to. But it's great to see the Irem M92 get some love, because even though it's not the most obscure arcade platform out there, it's also a platform that I don't hear people mention near as much as I would like. So if you've never played it before, head over to System 16 and pop over to the Irem M92 page and look at all the different games there. I can assure you that there is a metric crap ton of fun to be had. And if you do know about the Irem M92, let me know what your favorite game is down below. For me, it'll always be In the Hunt, all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Now there are some updates to some of the earlier Irem boards as well, and I will leave a link to the MAME website that goes all over the different patch notes and different improvements this month, because I definitely curate these videos and kind of show you guys what I think you're going to want to see, because there are a ton of updates in a month, but a lot of them maybe not exactly what my audience is looking for. Now, something that I demoed earlier in the month because I knew changes had been added, but I wasn't sure they were going to be in the commits or not. System 23 is going to get a bunch of graphical improvements as well. Something like Motocross Go here, last time I previewed it, it would freeze basically within 30 to 45 seconds. Now you can play every single course from start to finish with no issues whatsoever, and the graphics are going to be better as well. Seems that there's a big concerted push in 2025 to get Namco System 23 and Super System 23 working better in MAME, and that is great because not every single game for the System 23 was a hit. Everything can't be Time Crisis 2 or Crisis Zone, so if you go to arcades, a lot of these cabinets are going to be very rare these days, and that is the fun thing about MAME. It keeps these games alive, and trust me, trying to emulate these 3D games is not an easy challenge. Something like Panic Park here, absolutely outstanding arcade cabinet, but basically can actually injure people. I've heard of more than one person who's actually dislocated a shoulder or broken an arm playing this game. If you've never seen the arcade cabinet, take a look on Google Images and you'll understand why. So you can play it in MAME now, because those cabinets would break all the time because they would be beaten like a government mule. And now with the new improvements in Namco System 23, we're getting very close to reality where every single game that released on these platforms is going to be playable for all time, and that really is the goal. And we're going to move into soundtrack sample number 3 here because I love the music in Panic Park. It is a 10 out of 10 Namco Weird in my opinion, so go ahead and listen for 35 seconds, but come back because I have even more to show. I mean, honestly, it's a super fun game that you should definitely check out if you've never played it before. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you've ever seen a Panic Park arcade cabinet, what you thought of it. Final Furlong 2 here, a video I just did recently on an unported playlist, is also a System 23 game, and it's also a game that just looks basically near to complete, and that is great because for as many improvements as we have to Sega Model 2, Namco System 23 should get the same amount because basically these things were competitors back in the day. Namco brought System 23 out to basically compete with Model 2, and when Sega got to Model 3, Namco really didn't have much of an answer for that one, but I love the graphical stylings of these boards. I love the textures, the pixelation, all of the different polygons, and the fact that there really isn't any warping on any of them. So it's one of those things, the more improvements we get, the more of these games get to live for all time, or something like Downhill Bikers here. It boots now in MAME. It definitely has pretty correct graphics. It's just the controls aren't wired up yet, so I'm sure we're going to see stuff like that come soon. But this is exciting stuff because we're getting a lot of improvements into the bespoke silicon 3D hardware of the late 90s in MAME. And if you know me and you know the channel, you know that's absolutely where my heart lies when it comes to emulation. These janky also ran boards that basically had their own fun custom hardware inside. Now, if you can't tell the trend already, I'm going 3D to 2D and back again. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Turtles in Time, and this is basically the TMNT2 platform. Now, Konami would change hardware even if they would call it the same thing. So if you go to System 16 and look at all of the games that run on this board, you're going to see that there might be hardware changes between each of them, but there's been a ton of improvements on the MAME side of things as well to some of these games, and that definitely is awesome because trust me, this game is just Hall of Fame first ballot level good, and even if the Super Nintendo version of the game is technically the more fun version and more complete version, you cannot go wrong with Turtles in Time. And that's the fun part about this month's MAME updates. We have some brand new things we've never had before, like Sega Model 2 emulation and System 23 games that never used to boot or work. We also have some legacy emulation like Irem M92 and TMNT2 boards getting fixes as well. Like I said, I will leave a link to the notes on everything that was added down below because they are pretty comprehensive and you can basically search through them, because if I made a video on every single change in MAME every single month, you'd be watching an 8-hour soliloquy on everything that was improved. And that is always the great thing. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me, if you could make one game work in MAME right now that doesn't work or doesn't work well enough to play, which one would it be? Because we're getting very close to MAME 0.280 and even number release, and even though I haven't heard anything about any movement on the emulation, I would love to see Konami Viper become way more playable, because that board has a metric crap ton of amazing games that basically no one can play outside of owning real hardware, and I am the idiot that has 5 different Viper boards in the closet to make sure I can play those games when I want to. But I get it, you don't want to be like me. It's expensive, it takes up a ton of space, and it's a pain in the ass to wire up. That is why things like MAME are so incredible. They let you play these games, they let you go through them without all of the hassle of dropping a ton of cash on boards and a ton of time on wiring. But as far as TMNT2 here, you're going to see a lot of improvements in the games that run on this core, or basically just the driver for the emulation in this instance with MAME, and that's going to be a ton of fun. And if somehow you've never played this game before, trust me, you have to play it after this video. You're 100% missing out. It is one of those classics arcade games of all time. But if I had to say what my favorite improvement of the month is, it's got to be all of the different diverse Model 2 emulation improvements I previewed on the channel, all getting merged into MAME, because now you can just sit down and play something like the House of the Dead from start to finish. You're not going to have any performance issues unless your PC is a potato. You're not going to have any freezing. There really isn't any graphical glitching. All of the different shading and colorways look exactly as I remember them, and you're just going to have that much more fun of a time when you play Sega Model 2. And that is absolutely incredible, because Model 2 has some of the best games Sega ever made on it, and now basically all of them are playable in MAME, and I will be doing a video kind of just going through the top hits and how they perform, like I said, in a few weeks. And if there's any MAME video you want to see that I haven't done yet, leave me a comment down below. And if you need a MAME emulation tutorial or MAME emulation guide, I have those in the Emulation Night School playlist as well. But MAME's been having an awesome 2025, and I can't wait to see what August brings. Short of that, we're done. I'm going to shoot a few more zombies, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.